What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be discussing the Fire and Forget, a brand new Stasis Linear Fusion Rifle that was added to Destiny 2 within a season of the Seraph. And guys, here's the thing. I don't think this weapon is getting anywhere near the attention it deserves, because theoretically, this is the best DPS weapon added this entire season, and one of the best DPS weapons in the entire game. So, why isn't this getting more attention? Well, it's actually not a big mystery. People picked this thing up, shot it, and this happened. Yeah, for whatever reason, Bungie put the recoil of shooting a Desert Eagle one-handed on this thing, and so people tried it and went, no thank you, linears are supposed to be precision weapons. If you're not getting precision shots, you're not going to be doing any sort of significant damage. And how are you supposed to get precision shots if this thing is looking up at the moon after a few shots? So again, it's totally understandable why people tried this and went, yeah, I'm going to go back to, the Taipan or another linear fusion rifle that isn't bouncing around so much. However, if you look past the recoil at the stats and the perks, this is one of the most juiced DPS weapons again in the entire game. So this is only the second aggressive frame linear fusion rifle in the entire game, with the first one being the Storm Chaser that drops from the Duality dungeon. So if you didn't buy the dungeon pass, this is your only option. So already that's insane, because at a base level, aggressive frame linears absolutely dump truck normal linears. They do significantly more damage. And in past videos, I proved that with damage tests when the Storm Chaser was first released. However, notice I said at a base level, because if the normal linear has the most juiced perks you've ever seen and the aggressive frame doesn't, obviously the normal linear will start to step ahead in terms of DPS. And that's exactly what happened with the Taipan. When that came out, the perks were incredible, you could craft it, and it had the Heist Stinger intrinsic trait. This is incredibly important because this will automatically refill the magazine when you're doing damage, which means in a boss DPS phase, if you have Heist Stinger and you get lucky, you may never need to do a manual reload. You can just shoot and shoot your weapon for the entire damage phase, and obviously that is then going to surpass the DPS of an aggressive frame because you are going to have to do those manual reloads. Until the Fire and Forget came out, because this is the only aggressive frame in the game that also has access to Heist Stinger. So you take the superior damage and then give it the origin trait that makes the meta linears, the Taipan, the Reed's Regret, all that stuff, it makes the meta. This should be the combo of the century. This should clearly be now the new best DPS linear in the game. But is it? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the possible perks this weapon can get and the god roll you're trying to craft for PvE. First of all, in terms of the intrinsic trait, you could go with more reload speed. In a pure DPS sense, that's going to help, but I actually went with more stability, trying to calm that insane recoil. And the same logic is behind the barrel choice polygonal rifling, just more stability, again, trying to make it bounce around a little bit less. However, this is more personal preference. The battery, however, should absolutely be ionized battery. This is going to give you a 6-round magazine. The other battery choice, enhanced battery, only gives it 5 rounds. And guys, you absolutely want as many rounds as possible because we're going all in on Heist Stinger. 1 extra round is 1 extra chance to trigger Heist Stinger. However, something important to note about the Fire and Forget is that when using it, it actually seems to trigger Heist Stinger on any one of the 3 shots in a burst, which means 1 ammo has 3 chances to trigger Heist Stinger. With a 6-round magazine, that's 18 chances to trigger Heist Stinger, and that's significantly more than what the Taipan can get. However, Bungie may have accounted for this and made each of those 3 shots in a burst, a little bit less of a chance because it definitely doesn't seem like the Fire and Forget always goes infinite with Vice Stinger. Just thought I would mention it. But moving on from there to the first main perk choice, we have Field Prep, I think, as the clear option here. It's going to increase your reserve ammo, so more shots total in a raid boss damage scenario, for example, and also it significantly increases your reload speed as long as you're crouched. Honestly, a top tier PvE perk for heavy weapons. Then in the second column, our damage perk, well, you could go with something like Frenzy for a consistent damage increase as well as a little bit of reload speed, and even more consistent is Vorpal Weapon. However, it was nerfed to only a 10% damage increase, but you're going to get it for every single shot no matter what. But at the end of the day, I did go for Focused Fury. I do believe this is the superior option because you only need to shoot 3 rounds and then it's going to trigger and give you like 10 seconds of a 20% damage increase. And Enhanced Focused Fury is going to give you even longer than 10 seconds. Now, this is going to happen even if, let's say, you shoot the first round and then Vice Stinger triggers and you get your magazine up to full. You don't need to get to 3 rounds in the magazine, you just need to shoot 3 rounds despite Vice Stinger triggering. So if you go infinite, again, it's only those first 3 rounds where it's not active, and then Focus Fury is going to be up for like the entire time, and you are going to be doing a insane amount of damage. But can this god roll actually compete with the other meta linears? Well, I did a damage test in The Last Wish against Kali, so we are testing that roll of the Fire and Forget against a Storm Chaser god roll. As you can see here, we've got Clown Cartridge and Firing Line, and then we're also testing it against the infamous Taipan. Enhanced Triple Tap, Enhanced Firing Line, Vice Stinger, this is the baseline. If it can't beat the Taipan, what's the point? And we also have someone using a Divinity. Now, yes, I know her head multiplier is insane and you can do more damage than a Divinity by just shooting that. However, she also flails around like crazy, and so we're going for the consistency of everyone always being able to just shoot the Divinity bubble. So, in the first test we did, Vice Stinger was not treating me well. I had to reload a couple of times, and at the end of the day, I absolutely destroyed the Vice Stinger user, Evil Monkey, but I actually got beat by the Storm Chaser. What the heck happened there? Well, let's do another damage test. This time, I actually put on Sharpshooting. This is going to increase the chances to trigger Vice Stinger. Now, it is going away at the end of the season. However, I mean, this is just gonna simulate getting lucky. You can totally go infinite. It is just a matter of RNG. And this time, I got way luckier with Vice Stinger, but I got booped out of the well, and as you can see, I beat the Storm Chaser, but I lost to the Taipan. So we did another damage test. This time, I got lucky with Vice Stinger and I didn't get booped out of the well, and as you can see, I was on top with 767,000 damage. Now, importantly, this was the highest number of all of the tests involving Divinity. We actually did one more test where we just shot her in the head, and I actually destroyed that test. 914,000 damage, walked past the other options, but that could have just been my teammates not hitting their shots, right? So, of all these tests, guys, we had each of these different linears coming in first place. And that is really the result of Vice Stinger. If you get unlucky, you're not going to do very much damage. If you get lucky and go infinite, you are going to do an insane amount of damage. But again, of all those damage tests involving, Divinity with the same circumstances, the Fire and Forget did generate the highest damage, but not by much. Like, is this worth switching off your Taipan and everyone using the Fire and Forget? Honestly, not necessarily. However, if you look closer, it actually gets more impressive for the Fire and Forget. First of all, both of the other linears, their absolute highest DPS god roll involves Firing Line, which needs at least 3 players to be standing nearby. So great in a raid boss damage fight, but if you're solo, it's literally useless. The Fire and Forget doesn't. Again, it has Focused Fury. So if you're doing solo content, it's not even close. the fire and forget is clearly now the best option, because you're not even going to trigger the best option, the best perk for the other two weapons, right? Now, you could also involve a Cataclysm with bait and switch, but during, again, prior testing videos, that got dump trucked by the Storm Chaser, even with Vorpal weapons, so it's really only worth using if you're a solar subclass using Font of Might. But what is the takeaway here? Well, we put the Fire and Forget up against literally the best DPS linear fusion rifles in the entire game, and not only did it hold its own, it often came out on top. And so that's already incredibly impressive. Guys, you now kind of have a great accessible option for all of the different elements. Solar is the Cataclysm with bait and switch. Void, obviously the Taipan. Arc is the Storm Chaser, and Stasis used to be the Reed's Regret. However, that is a trials weapon, and it's not craftable. The amount of people that have the utter god roll that could even compete with the Fire and Forget are few and far between. In fact, the Fire and Forget beat the Taipan several times during testing, and the Taipan has enhanced perks that the Reeds can't even get. So, for most people, Fire and Forget is going to be the best linear for Stasis by a country mile. And that means just whatever element your build is, you slap on a Font of Might, you get some elemental wells, and you use whatever linear is of that element to do incredible DPS. All of those 4 elemental linears are interchangeable in terms of massive damage, and now having a new accessible craftable stasis option that again often comes out on top is a really big deal. Again, I think it is often overlooked. In fact, even going back to the big negative, which is the recoil, if you actually compare it with the Storm Chaser, you can see the Storm Chaser, its sights just more aligned with where the bullets go. The Fire and Forget is almost all visual recoil. The sights are facing way up in the air, but the bullets went significantly lower than where the sights are facing. So if you know that and accommodate for that, you don't, massively yank downwards when you're shooting the Fire and Forget. You kind of just let it do its thing and then realign the sights after a shot. You're having a perfectly accurate weapon that can, often when you're fighting big bosses, like Oryx here, it's pretty hard to miss, right? So definitely I don't think it's as big as an issue as a lot of people make it seem. In any event, that's it for the video. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed and found this informative, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.